Hello, everyone, and inside today's Locked On Canadiens, the Habs and Flames might be having a mid-off on Tuesday night. The prospects are thriving with the Laval Rocket and trading for Connor McDavid in Montreal. Let's find out if we can make it happen. All that and more inside today's show.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 953 of Locked On Canadiens. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. I am one of your hosts. I am, of course, Scott Matla. I am flying solo for I think this might be the last one. Laura should be back tomorrow. If not, she'll be here for the Wednesday episode. And we've got quite a fun show planned for you today. And if you were wondering where you can make us your first listen of the day every single day of the week, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your daily podcast every day of the week, or if you're watching my shining face and Grateful Dead t-shirt on youtube.com, Locked On Canadiens. Tell all your friends. And it's been a hectic start to the week. The Laval Rocket played 2 games, one on Sunday, one on Monday. Canadiens played on Sunday, and they play again on Tuesday, and the Rocket play Wednesday, and the Habs play Thursday, and the Rocket play Friday, and the Habs play Saturday. There's a lot of Montreal Canadiens hockey across the board this week, and we are a month out from the PWHL. I believe training camp's opening up. I will double check and confirm the dates with Jared Book of Habs Eyes on the Prize on that, because he is the man in the know there. But let's jump into things here. We're going to talk about the Rocket. We're going to get to them in the second segment there, in our Rocket recap minute there. And the Canadiens and Flames are going to be playing a game on Tuesday here. And I say playing a game because they might be playing, Lord only knows what you would call a game of hockey. And I look at the way the season has gone. Calgary is 4-8-2, sitting on 10 points, better than the Edmonton Oilers, which LOL, LMAO, hooting, hollering, meme. And they've been one of those teams that they made a lot of changes in the offseason. They fired the coach. New GM Brad Treliving is out in Toronto doing whatever it is he does. Most of that core is back here again. Re-signed Mikael Backlund. They've still got Huberdeau. They've still got Nazem Kadri. They've got guys like Nikita Zadorov for now. They've got Jacob Markstrom. They stuck by their guns a little bit here. And I just want to take a look at their team here because they're a team that is struggling to hit expectations. They traded away Tyler Toffoli, which I know is does not usually go well. Trust me. I know trading Tyler Toffoli does not usually yield good results here. Their leader in points is Andrew Mangiapane, Elias Lindholm, and Nazem Kadri with 8 points among forwards. Noah Hannafin leads the team with 6 points on defense. Connor Zary has 4 points as a rookie. Boy, not ideal for a team that is trying to kind of get itself out of that we're boring kind of hockey vibe there. On the season, they've scored 37 goals, given up 52. They're 2-7-1 in their last 10 games. The Canadiens, a team expected to struggle a lot more this year, 7-6-2, 44 goals for, 53 goals against, 4-5-1 in their last 10 games. Not terrible. And this is a game that the Canadiens are coming off a frustrating one against Vancouver, where I said in our last episode that 5-2 doesn't really belay the entire story of what was going on in that game, where Vancouver was getting all the bounces. This year, it feels like Calgary is getting none of the bounces, 0 bounces, no bounces for you. A year after the whole Daryl Sutter experiment basically brought the entire organization into a standstill, almost blew it up completely. And this is a game that should be a get right for the Montreal Canadiens. I would start Caden Primo. Samuel Montembeault is his backup, maybe Jake Allen, depending. And I think this is a game where Cole Caulfield should get himself on track. I am hoping this is the game Josh Anderson gets himself back on track here. He played decently enough. He leads the league in drawn penalties with 14, which is nuts. It's kind of frustrating that with all those penalties drawn, he hasn't been able to make the most of it. Whether that be goals himself or more goals on the power play. The Canadiens' power play is 10th in the NHL, apparently, which is great. It's above what I wanted in expectations. I said middle of the pack. We are golden. We are Gucci. Everybody is happy. This Flames game should be about getting some of these guys on track or giving them something to build on. Uri Slafkovsky had a great game against Vancouver. Career highs in shots on goal, shots attempts, all those things. It was 7 and 11 respectively on that, if I'm remembering the Arpon Basu tweet correctly. This is a game against a team that maybe doesn't defend as well, definitely doesn't score as well, that the Canadiens can open up those gas tanks a little bit. Like we've seen them do, they're capable of putting their foot down and scoring goals in rapid succession. I would love to see Uri Slafkovsky get on the board in this game. I would love to see some of the defense there get back on the score sheet in this game in a good way. I want to see Caden Gooley get more minutes than Mike Matheson in this one. Not that I don't think Mike Matheson is a good defenseman and a capable defenseman on this team. This should be a game that you let Caden Gooley go up there against the Hubertos, against the Kadris, against the Michael Backlund, who is one of the most underrated players in the league. Shout out Mike Phelan, the Scorch Stack, for that. Give him the opportunity to prove that he isn't that guy. Why not? This is a year where you're trying to find things out, and I think this is the perfect game for that. Because later on this week, they have Vegas again. They have the Bruins again. It's going to get mean. It's going to get nasty again at the end of the week. That's two other games where they played two very good teams, one shootout loss, one overtime winner. Both those teams are going to be looking to come back, swing, and hit the Habs in the mouth and make the most of it. Use this Flames game as your springboard. You played well against Boston on Saturday. You played well against Detroit the previous Thursday. You played decently against Vancouver, couldn't get bounces. Use this one to get yourself back on that little track there. You're kind of taking a little detour for a little bit. Car didn't feel too great. Everything looks good. Hit the gas and go in this game. The Flames are a team that are in the midst of an identity transfer here. And I look at this as a team that is underperforming where they should be at and should not be taken lightly because of that. The Flames still have talented players. We know Jonathan Huberdeau is a talented player. We know Nazem Kadri is a talented player. Elias Lindholm, their defense with Rasmus Anderson and Noah Hannafin, etc., are talented players, and nothing just seems to be meshing yet. Don't become their get-right game is how I would look at this for the Canadiens. Use this to springboard. You know you've got Vegas ahead on Thursday. You lock in, you get this team ready to go. If you get Slafkovsky going, you get the old dudes line who aren't that old back together and running again. You let them go. If you get Josh Anderson on a heater, you let that sucker rip, because we know when Josh Anderson gets hot, he is unplayable if you're a defender in the best possible way. This is the ideal game for that. This is a team struggling to find its consistency. And if it wasn't for the Oilers, it would be talked about even more. The Oilers, whatever we're calling that at this point right now, is overshadowing the Flames with all these changes aren't where they need to be. I believe Matthew Coronado was sent down to the AHL. Dustin Wolf was recalled, who's one of their young, really talented goalies, one of the best goaltenders, not playing regular NHL minutes right now because he is smaller. There's every chance they might see Dustin Wolf in this game. And you know what? No mercy. Show no mercy. Make this your get-right game. This is the trappiest of trap games, though. Good weekend, lesser opponent, stronger opponents back half of the week. Trap game written all over it. I'm not going to go on the board for predictions here because every time I do, I am very, 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 very wrong. But I am truly thinking this is a game the Canadiens can put up a pretty big number on the board there. 4 or 5 goals is probably not out of the question. And speaking of big number scoring and going on a hot streak to start this week, the Laval Rocket had themselves a weekend in Manitoba And we will get into all of that coming up in our next segment. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. We will be back after the Flames game tomorrow. We will have your recap. We'll have your reaction. We'll have news from around the league. So much to probably catch up on because there are games tonight. And as we know, everything happens when we are not recording this show or after we have recorded this show. But I want to jump into what is actually something near and dear to my heart. Everyone who knows me knows I cover the Habs AHL affiliates for Habs Eyes on the Prize. I've done it for a decade. The Laval Rocket had a week off, coming off a win over Toronto where they came back from a 3-goal deficit, scored 4 straight goals, 1 in the third period, then got shut out the next game and looked generally like they were lost. They rolled into Manitoba. They played a game at 2:30 Central and 10:30 Central on Sunday and Monday, respectively. In those 2 games, they piled up 11 goals, allowed 4 goals against, and looked completely different team. Absolutely, totally different, not the same team at all. And a big part of that is one, Jakub Dovish was outstanding on Sunday. He left the game late with what they described as cramping. He was going over to the bench, taking electrolyte packets. It looked like a packet of soy sauce, to be quite honest with you. I assume it's some kind of like electrolyte or chemical like mixture to help with that, and potassium or whatever it might be that was causing the cramping, and chugging down Gatorade. He made another save. Cramping was still happening. They put Straussman in. They had already securely won the game on Sunday, but he was outstanding. And the biggest part of everything on this weekend, besides the goals going in, which is awesome, we'll get to that, the defense in their own end of the ice cleaned up everything. If there was a rebound, out of danger. If there was a second chance coming, out of danger. Open lane, blocked shot. There was a point in the game that I was watching on Monday. Straussman is in net, and I'm watching the second period thinking, they're not really playing well. They're kind of lucky to have gotten another goal in this. And the Moose announcers for Manitoba go, they had 5 shots that period, and I went, there were a lot of blocked shots, a lot of shots steered wide with sticks. It's the smart way to activate a defense. They're not being passive, but they're not being so aggressive that they are out of position. And it allows their goalies a little more comfort to know the guys in front of them are making moves that are helping them in this instant here. And a big part of that is the step up in defensive zone plays from someone like William Trudeau. Still not where he needs to be, but better. Jaden Struble was very good on Sunday. We will talk about him at the end of this. Brady Keeper, decent. Also, we'll talk about him a little bit. But Olivier Galipeau and Toby Paquette-Bisson stepped up in a big way, thrown into this lineup. Gustav Lindstrom is on recall. Nicolas Baudin isn't trusted. And Mattias Norlinder was a scratch on Sunday, played on Monday. They stepped up and each provided a goal. Paquette-Bisson on Sunday and Galipeau on Monday. Really good showing from a defense that needed to get itself back on track in a big way. They had a lot of young talent, and last year their defense was very good at limiting shots and getting pucks out of their zone. It's what you want to see in front of goaltenders who are struggling there. And I'm really, really encouraged by what I saw from that. And the biggest part of this weekend, I think, is the offense got itself going across the board. You have goals from guys like Nathan Legere. You have goals from Xavier Simoneau. He had 2 of them. Obviously, Paquette-Bisson. Logan Mailloux scored a goal from Olivier Galipeau. But the big pieces driving everything this weekend were Sean Farrell and Joshua Waugh. They were unstoppable together. They hooked up on, they each ended the weekend with 2 goals and at least 2 assists each. I believe Farrell ended up with 1 more assist than that. Farrell's up to 9 points in 12 games. Joshua Waugh is 2 points off the AHL lead with 16 points in 12 games. He leads all rookies. Farrell is in the top 10 and Logan Mailloux is in the top 20 for rookie scoring this year. Among defenders, Mailloux is also, I believe, in that top 20 range. Obviously, Farrell is among the leaders in the AHL here. And the guys ahead of him are veteran players. This is a rookie winger. And where everything is working is that Farrell and Waugh have this synergistic connection that their passes find homes that they should not. The game on Monday, it was Joshua Waugh's goal at the back post here. Sean Farrell is working on the right half boards, and Farrell is cutting over to the back post, or Waugh's cutting over to the back post. Farrell looks up, has an angle that he's got to come backwards through the goal crease to Waugh at the corner post. He threads it through the front of the goalie's pads away from their stick, through the defender's stick to Watt the back post, and he just has a stick there, deflects it in. It's not as amazing as behind the back or over the net or between the legs, but just the precision to make something like that happen is what we want to see out of someone like Sean Farrell. He's a very smart playmaker. And then Joshua Waugh returned the favor later on in that game. Brandon Gignac has a great rush, goes around, passes back. Logan Mailloux starts the rush, goes up, wrong goal. Xavier Simoneau. Gignac comes up, gets the puck to Waugh. Farrell is cutting to the right side of the net. Waugh's on the left-hand side, puts it right on a tee. Farrell, stick on the ice, the most basic thing they teach anybody playing hockey, right past the goaltender there, and it's beautiful. Mailloux had a very nice setup on what ended up being Xavier Simoneau's second goal, just because he's leading the charge in a proper way, getting that secondary assist, pushing the play up without taking himself out of the play entirely. So if he needs to get back, he is there. Really, really smart, really enjoyable weekend of games. Showed the best of what you can expect from a lot of these prospects, and also sometimes the bad things that you see around the AHL, because the Rocket are now going to be without Jaden Struble for 2 more games as of the time of this recording. He was suspended Monday morning for 3 games for his actions at the end of the Sunday game between the Rocket and the Moose, with the breakdown of this being Brady Keeper skating back behind the Rocket net. It is a 6-2 game. Final horn goes. Nikita Chibrikov is behind him. He's choked up 2 ends on a stick, takes a swing, misses him, hits him with the second one. And Keeper, not known for being the most composed individual, sometimes turns around and gives him a cross check right to this head neck area there. Chibrikov goes down like a sack of potatoes. All heck breaks loose. Everyone goes after Keeper. Players are already coming off the benches because the final horn is sounded. They want to go celebrate with their team. Jeff Malott of the Manitoba Moose is making a beeline there, and Jaden Struble clocks him with a clothesline that would make Ron Simmons blush. He knocks him down. They get into it. They are pulled over to the boards, and Struble is hammer fisting this guy as they try and separate them. They are the only 2 who are suspended out of this thing. Malott got a game. Struble got 3. They didn't really say why they were suspended, but it's assumed that they left the bench, which the game is over. I don't really buy that, but then started an altercation. Why Malott only got 1, I assume is because Struble cold-cocked him on his way to potentially causing more harm to his teammate. The bad blood kind of carried over a little bit into Monday's game. Jeffrey Vale really wanted to get at Brady Keeper. There was a point that Straussman had covered the puck. Vale comes in, takes an extra whack at his glove. Brady Keeper just goes, nope. The official between the 2 of them trying their best to separate the 2 of them. They each got 2 and a 10, 2 for roughing, 10 for continuing an altercation. The Rocket without Struble for the next couple games is tough. If Nicolas Baudin is good to go, I assume he will draw back in. Mattias Norlinder played on Monday, and I thought he looked fine. I don't know why he falls out of favor so easily. He's got minuses on there, and some of it is not his fault. Some of it is bad goaltending, but that runway is getting shorter, and I say that as someone who loves Mattias Norlinder on this team here. They are back in action on Wednesday against the Belleville Senators, and what I'm sure will be a feisty game. If the Rocket can get that one, I think they'll have shook off their October funk. They had one last year too. I can never fully understand why it happens. Goaltending looked better. The defense looked a lot better. The young guys are scoring. Waugh and Farrell are leading the way. And as Matt Drake put it in the Eyes on the Prize chat, they're going to have to find somebody to replace Joshua Waugh before long, because he's making it impossible to ignore him. And that's the best that you could hope for this season. The best you could hope for in Edmonton this season is that Connor McDavid doesn't demand a trade at the end of it, however. And given that he is apparently very teed off based on everything going on, if you listen to the podcast, I'm going to speculate now. What would it take to get Connor McDavid in Montreal, even as a fleeting dream? We're going to talk about that coming up next. But first, you can score this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. And if you're thinking about joining FanDuel, it's no better time to get in on the action because the app is easy to use and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, the over-under, and so much else. And the best part is when you win that moneyline bet and you get that $150 in bonus bets, you can cash out immediately right there in the app. Get paid. And if you're like me, go buy more chicken wings for the Bills game. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and us here at Locked On. And I am also here to remind you to please gamble responsibly anytime you are betting on sports. We are back to wrap up the final segment here, and I'm daydreaming a little bit here because the Oilers thing yesterday got me thinking. They're going to let Ken Holland make the eventual McDavid or Draisaitl trade for some reason, and I personally cannot wait to watch that happen. And I never thought, oh, he's actually going to leave. They got his, McDavid's going to leave the Oilers. And now, based on what Jeff Merrick said on the 32 Thoughts podcast, is that Connor McDavid is really PO'd, like actually really mad about this, because the quotes that came out today is, I didn't know this was going to happen. I woke up, texted Leon Draisaitl. We didn't have any idea this was going to happen, which flies in the face of what Ken Holland said, where they talked to the veteran players, but is in line with what Jeff Jackson said when he said we didn't consult the players on this, not even the veterans. You are the captain of the Oilers. You are one of the highest paid players in the NHL. You are one of the best players in the NHL. You are the captain of this team. You should have a say in what is going on. Jay Woodcroft didn't lose the room, not according to Connor McDavid, and they fired him anyways. Yeah, they brought in, your old junior coach, and that's great and everything like that. But the writing isn't just kind of like written on the wall a little bit. Someone has taken the rusty end of like a pick and just chiseled it into the side of the arena in Edmonton. You got to win or everything's going to go out the window at this point. And personally, I think it's funnier if it goes out the window because they fired the wrong guy. I think Ken Holland should have been fired before Jay Woodcroft. And it got me thinking, Connor McDavid demands a trade. There will be 31 other NHL teams interested in making that deal. If you're not, you have a bad GM and should be fired immediately. So I'm thinking, if I'm Kent Hughes, Connor McDavid says, I want to leave Edmonton. Okay, let's talk business. Got to make the contracts work. $12.5 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's more money than the Canadiens have, even with Carey Price on LTIR. So what do? You don't want to trade Suzuki, I assume. You don't want to trade Caulfield, I assume. You probably don't want to trade Lane Hudson or David Reinbacher at this point. Okay. You're probably going to want to shift out one iffy contract, but an NHL everyday player, a guy who is actually an NHL quality player. And if I know the Oilers and I know their management as well as I think I do, Josh Anderson sounds great. Oilers fans everywhere are screaming at me right now. But, okay, $5.5 million. You have a $7 million difference. You're going to be trading at least one of your first, probably both in the next coming years. Maybe you try and hold on to that Flames one if they're really, really bad. But you're trading at least 1 to 2 first-round picks. Guaranteed probably 2 at that point. And then you got to go into the prospects. Who are you giving up in a trade for Connor McDavid? They're going to ask for Lane Hudson. Understandably so. They're going to ask for David Reinbacher. Understandably so. They will probably ask for Joshua Waugh. Understandably so. They will probably ask for one of Kirby Dach or Nick Suzuki or someone too. And if I'm Kent Hughes, they're not going anywhere. Feasibly, it's not a trade that I think the Canadiens can pull off because I don't think they have enough spare assets right now to make up a deal for Connor McDavid. Because to get McDavid, I'm trying to think of a package that would be similar. And I look at Matthew Tkachuk, which is still going to be a tier below what I think a McDavid trade would look like. And that was Huberdeau and Weegar with picks going the other way. I don't know if the Canadiens have a guy coming off a season like Jonathan Huberdeau had, which just trading for him after one peak season is just incredible, missteps by Brad Treliving. What terrifies me is that the team I think who could make something like this happen is Toronto, and that includes them just shipping Mitch Marner out and getting Connor McDavid in. They can add a contract here or there with someone else on that team, but they could very feasibly trade Mitch Marner plus and get Connor McDavid, which is horrifying to think about because a team that has Matthews and McDavid as its top two center sounds terrifying to play against, which is why I want Ken Hughes to pull a rabbit out of whatever hat he is wearing. I assume a nice toque. It's probably a little bit cold in Montreal right now. It is cold here in Buffalo a bit. I'm curious, what do our listeners think here? What would you reasonably trade for Connor McDavid? Is Caden Gooley on your no trade list? Why or why not? They might ask for Arbor Jacki, who fits that mean blue collar style that they kind of want there. McDavid isn't the contract I would trade off of that. I would try and get rid of Darnell Nurse as soon as possible for literally any other quality NHL defenseman, but that's just me. How many picks, what prospects are off limits in a trade for Connor McDavid? Reasonably, I would say none. But if the Canadiens have a plan, they want to stick to it. I kind of get it. I'm thinking a trade is going to look something like an Anderson, 2 firsts, one of the 2 or 3 young guys in that defensive core right now, whether that be Caden Gooley, whether that be Arbor Jacki, whether that be someone like Logan Mailloux on the way up there. They're going to ask for Hudson or Reinbacher. And unless you are damn sure that you are ready to take that next step and you do not need Hudson or Reinbacher, then you pull the trigger. I personally can't see it happening. This is a fairy tale dream that Ken Holland is going to be backed into a corner. I don't think they will allow him to make that trade. I don't even think he's going to be able to make it to the trade deadline if this team is still not in a playoff spot. Then the fun really, really begins. Because how many teams are going to call it the trade deadline and go, what will it take to get anything off of this roster right now? I want to know what you think. What would you offer in a trade for Connor McDavid if he inevitably demands a trade this offseason when the Oilers do not get any better? Tweet us at LO_Canadiens, LockedOnCanadiens at gmail.com for longer comments. You can put them in the YouTube comments, put McDavid trade or something there at the top. We want to hear from you. I want to hear what Habs Nation would do in a trade for the best hockey player in the world. Who are your top prospects playing here too? What have you seen from Rocket games? Do you have any other questions? You can tweet me at Scott Matla on Twitter. Remember, you can find this podcast wherever you find your daily podcast on Google, Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube.com. Please tell all your friends. Closing in on 3,100 subscribers. It means so, so much to us. And as always, thank you so much for listening, everyone. We will see you all next time.